a Chinese military base in Canada, or in Mexico, or in the Caribbean. So why would Russia accept U.S., which NATO is really, U.S., military missiles and bombs and planes and tanks right at its border? And number 4, it wants that the world recognize Crimea, Lugansk, and Donetsk as territories separate from Ukraine, because they're full of Russian speakers. They're full of ethnic Russians. So there is some historical claim there that we don't know all the intricacies and nuances of that. We act like, we're pro-Ukrainian and we don't even know what's happened there. Now, all these demands could have been met without war and the death of thousands of troops and civilians. But now Western NATO leaders are talking tough publicly. But know that the defeat of the Ukrainian army is a foregone conclusion, and that the sanctions on Russia might hurt the West as much or worse than Russia. Since 2004, Western leaders have worked to keep Ukraine impoverished and corrupt as a way to cultivate a puppet state that would act as a wedge to destabilize Russian security, even while some Western politicians have been personally enriched by corrupt business dealings in Russia and Ukraine. And that goes straight to the Biden family. That's what Donald Trump was trying to investigate. He was impeached for making a call about getting facts on how deep was the corruption, how deep was the deep state, how many people were making millions of dollars in Ukraine. And the Biden family were involved. It's not even a secret. A peace deal was possible. Putin had said what he wanted. We could have negotiated. Did you know that 1 month after the invasion, Russia and Ukraine were ready to sign a peace deal in April 2022? But Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of UK, personally traveled to Ukraine to meet Zelensky and stop a peace deal. This has now come out. The war would have been over 2 months after it started. Europe would not be short of energy, food, or fertilizer, and the world price of oil and gas would not have skyrocketed. None of your bills would have gone up if Boris Johnson had not personally met with Zelensky. And here's what went down. According to multiple former senior U.S. officials, in April 2022, Russia and Ukraine negotiators appeared to have tentatively agreed on the outlines of a negotiated interim settlement. Russia would withdraw to its position on February 23, when it controlled part of Donbass region and all of Crimea, and in exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. Reasonable? Is Putin the war criminal or Boris Johnson? Putin was ready to sign this peace deal. You would have averted the deaths. You would have averted the energy crisis. We don't even know how many lies, how deep the lies go. Only when these things begin to come out. And how many people report this? Is this on CNN? Is this on BBC? It's such a controlled narrative. According to a Western newspaper, a pro-Western newspaper in Ukraine, it said that even if, Boris Johnson said, even if Ukraine is ready to sign some agreement on guarantees with Putin, they are not. Western powers are not. Johnson's position was that the collective West now felt that Putin was not really as powerful as they had previously imagined, and that here was a chance to press him. So they were going for war. They were trying to destroy a part of Europe. You cannot have European security without including Russia. Russia is a part of Europe. But they're alienating Russia. Sounds like a bad marriage. They seem to have this formula down pat. The entire world sanctioned Russian oil, froze Russian assets, attacked the Russian ruble, forbade Russian stocks to trade. Netflix even canceled paid subscriptions. Can you imagine that? On what basis? You're a Russian, you didn't start any war, you paid for your Netflix, you can't access it anymore. Russian news was wiped off the internet. There used to be RT, you used to hear both sides. They demonized Russia and completely stopped any flow of information from the other side. We're still living in this, and you think we have free press, free speech? They're tightening the noose. One day they will say, I cannot preach the word of God. And I will preach. I will preach to my dying day. I would rather die and go to heaven than preach your lies and go to hell. Right? America would not accept a Chinese military base in Canada.